You guys, we are more than halfway through 2023, which means that the first half of my 2023 Project Life album is completed. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Hi, this is Linda, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In this video, I'm doing a full flip through of the first half of my 2023 Project Life album. Just to give you guys a little bit of background, if you're new here, or if you're new to my Project Life albums, I have been keeping these albums since 2013. So this is the 11th year that I am doing Project Life. Project Life, very quickly, is a pocket page documenting project where I do it weekly. So each spread represents a week in my life, but a lot of people do it either monthly or just, go as they flow, as it flows. But really what you're doing is documenting your everyday life and using divided page protectors with pockets to do so, which makes it a little bit simpler and a little bit less of a traditional scrapbooking approach. A lot of these pages in the beginning here are part of my Plan, Prep, Play class, which I will link down below. So I'm not going to talk a ton about the first few weeks because they are in that class with full process videos. But this album represents the start of a year where it is just me and my daughter. I am not sure exactly what I'm going to do for 2024, where I am an empty nester and it is literally just me. But for now, for 2023, I did include just the two of us in this album. As far as on the cover, it's just the two of us. There's obviously everybody else that shows up in my life, but this is really my story from my perspective. It does have a lot of my daughter in it because she did still live with me at home for the first half of 2023, but it really is my perspective. So these first few weeks are part of my Plan, Prep, Play class, so I'm just gonna gloss through them quickly. But this one was using the quarterly scrapbook kit, I believe it was the labels kit from Ali Edwards. And so was this one, also using that labels kit. Moving into the third week. So this is a kit from Paper Person. And most spreads, I like to use a kit. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I use like a stash busting spread. But I usually do a kit for each spread because I like the cohesive nature and I like being able to kind of have everything right there to pull from. So this one I used a kit from Paper Person that I guess it was the January themed kit. I do not subscribe to Paper Person anymore. I have in the past, but for now I just pick them up every so often. They're actually very, very expensive if you don't subscribe. So I almost didn't get this kit even though I love it. But thankfully I was able to purchase it from someone who is a subscriber for the subscriber price. So that was really, really nice. I love how these cards have all of these like prompts. And so I was able to kind of fill those in, but that is something that is very, very much present in all the Paper Person kits. And it's a little bit too much. It worked well for this week, but I wouldn't want that every week. And although I did it for like these cards, I ended up having to make a card because I needed just like more journaling space. For this week, I'm using the Freckled Fawn kit. I use those kits once a month because I am on their creative team. And so there is a monthly kit from them that I get. The kit that I use has the 12 by 12 papers and the pocket cards, but you can kind of mix and match and make your own kit depending on what you want from them. And I have all of that linked below along with my personal discount code that you can use to get discounts on anything from their shop. So moving into the end of January. So I've been using this at the end of each month. It's still winter here. It's very cold. So I've got some snow pictures. Not a lot going on. A lot of cuddly cat pictures. I get a lot of questions about like, what do I include in my Project Life? Because I am an empty nester and I am single. And this is what I include. I have weather pictures. I have pictures of what I'm reading, me journaling, me with my cat. I'm playing video games. A Zoom call with some friends. There's not a ton going on, but this is my life. And I'm very, very happy to have it documented. I don't need to be doing like crazy busy things all the time to document my life. This one I'm using the Stories by the Month kit from Ali Edwards for January. So I'd also use this kit for my opening page here. But after that one, I believe I tend to use these kits once per month for the first week of the month. I think I do it for the first. Yeah, I don't remember if it's the first week. Oh no, so I guess this is the last week of the month of January. And this one was the second to last, at least for this month. And so again, you can kind of see I have food pictures, I have laundry, my mug, not a ton going on. And you can see I take a lot of pictures of things, not people. Part of that is just because, you know, I'm by myself a lot, so I'm not going to just take a bunch of selfies. And, you know, I'm doing things by myself or with my cat. So it's pictures of that. I also, just like some of the people I hang out with, don't love getting their photo taken or being in my albums. Or it's just, you know, it's when I am with people, I'm not wanting to just be like, everybody pause, we need to take a picture for my album. So a lot of times I end up with pictures of things, but it's still very, I just love it. I love seeing my life in this way. And I get all the stories in the journaling when I do other things. My daughter did show up here because we had this ridiculously cold spell. It was -11, but the wind chill, I think, was -24. Which is just very, very cold for where I live. And that's Fahrenheit for anyone who is in Celsius. So that is like very, very negative in the Celsius system. I don't actually know what that translates to, but it's really, really cold. It's like very dangerously cold. And my daughter actually put her winter coat on and hat. And she is in those teenage years where she's outgrowing it now, but last winter, she was in that age where she doesn't really wear a winter coat. So the fact that she pulled it out and actually her hat and scarf for like the first time was kind of it was worth documenting. Here, moving into February. So here I started using the Freckled Fawn kit for the first week of the month, the first full week of the month. Here, I was going on vacation. So I went on vacation in February to the Dominican Republic. So this is the week that's like leading up to that and the traveling down to the airport. And I just included that on this week because this actually is a short week. So even though I do my project weekly, I don't adhere to the strict 7 days if, you know, something like a vacation's coming up because I want that vacation to be its own spread. So I adjusted my weeks accordingly. And then I put the travel stuff on here because it if I don't include it in this spread, if I put it on my spread with my actual vacation, it probably would have got cut because these pictures just aren't as good. And just a few other like random things from life. Work, I don't typically include photos from work, but my boss was on the news, so I included that. Well, it was on legislative briefing, but so it's like C-SPAN kind of news, local. But still, it was like live streamed. So I was watching that. My daughter sent me a picture with her boyfriend. I don't always include pictures of her doing things with her friends or other people when I'm not there. But sometimes if she sends me a cute picture, I will include it. Here's my trip to the Dominican Republic. I don't think that I'm going to do a mini album for this trip. I love a lot of the photos, and I did do some traditional layouts using these photos. I got a couple photos of myself that I really, really love. Just some pretty photos. But I went to an all-inclusive resort, so it wasn't like I was like sightseeing. So it wasn't really a ton of photos that way. And it was more of like a relaxing vacation. So I do love how this came out. I think this is the Wander story kit. And I just used a few pieces from it and then focused on my photos and just did one journaling thing because I really didn't need to journal about what I did every day in here because I did keep a daily journal during this time and documented that there. But this was more just an overview of the week and my favorite photos. Okay, so this week is using the February Stories by the Month kit. So every year, Allie kind of repeats some of the elements in the Stories by the Month kit, or at least she's done that for the past few years. This year, it's this 3 things card here. So I use that and I use this kit at the end of each month. And then I use that to kind of recap the month and tell like 3 big things from the month or 3 like highlights. And I really liked that, but I liked that this year there wasn't so much repetition. Last year there were so many cards that were repeated. I think there were 4 3x4 cards and 1 4x6 card that I used every spread. And it got to be a bit much. This year I really liked how it was the 1 card. Everything else is a little bit different. So this week, let's see, I just have a lot more of the same: food pictures, cat pictures, journaling. My daughter and I went on a college tour we retoured the school, U Albany, where she was. The first time we toured it when she was a junior in high school. It's our local college. She wasn't very interested, but we made her tour it. This time she is now interested and had pretty much decided she was going there. So I actually got her a sweatshirt when we went, and she is in fact there now. That's where she goes to school. So I documented that. I was doing some yoga, pictures of my cat. Okay, so then this week I'm using the quarterly scrapbook kit from Ali Edwards. I want to say this was tags maybe. And I cut these out of paper and put them on top of this other pattern paper to create these journaling cards. And I love that I did some like stamping, and I just love the repeated element of it, and just doing journaling of a few different things that are going on right now. And then I repeated my stamping on some of my photos, because again, I have a lot of like food photos, cat photos, the weather. Like there's not a ton going on in my everyday life, but that's okay. You can totally do project life anyways. You don't need to be super busy. In fact, I think it's better if you're not super busy, because then you can actually have time to work on the project and play with it. Okay, so here's using the kit from Freckled Fawn for March. I met up with a couple friends this week. My daughter got her first filling. Hey, pumpkin. My cat is walking through the video. The first signs of spring. So I love just documenting like little things like this, because this is one of the reasons I love project life. Like this is something I wouldn't really remember that I saw the first signs of spring this week if I didn't have it in here. And I love being able to look back and see that. This one, I used an older kit from Paper Person that I had actually had for a really long time. So I had actually pulled this kit out because this week I told a story about some new medication starting that I wanted to cover up some of the details. But I remembered I had this kit in my stash that had this puffy sticker for a prescription. And then it happened to be like perfect colors to coordinate. So I used that here. And then once I saw that kit, I realized it would actually be very good for this week, because my daughter actually got really sick and we had to go to urgent care because she needed a note for her boss to get out of work, but she also had a pretty high fever and needed some medication. And my cat also went to the vet, and it was just kind of like a rough week in general. So I thought that a lot of these cards and sentiments worked really well. So I was very happy that I was able to use this kit from Paper Person. I think it was even from the old Kelly Perky, maybe. It might have been Paper Person or Kelly Perky, but I've had it sitting around for at least a year, and I don't remember what it was called, but it had to do with like wellness. So you can see like, today felt hard, feeling tired of this, not today, rest up. A lot of those were from that. And then there were some that were more, medical based, and some that were on like encouragement, and some that were more just basic. Like this one has like Band-Aids on it, which I thought was perfect for this story of my cat going to the vet and getting a vaccine. Okay, so here I'm using the open story kit. I love using the Ali Edwards story kits in my project life because they kind of prompt me to tell some different stories. So as I pointed out multiple times, I don't have a ton going on in my life except for like when I'm traveling and stuff. It's pretty much like my cat, me, my planner, food, a lot of food, just like my yard, a lot of just like random little things and little stories of stuff that's going on in my life. But I love having story kits to kind of prompt specific stories. So the open theme kind of like pushed me to tell some specific stories. And I also liked it like just trying to come up with ways to use that theme. So like opening chapter was for the new season. This was my cat was in his diner. It's finally open for business because he finally decided to use it. Just being open to change, opening my planner, just like different little things open wide for a big mega stuffed Oreo. It was just a lot of fun, and I have a lot of fun using those story kits. Now I'm using the March stories by the month. This week we did Admitted Students Day at U Albany, which was a day that my daughter and me went and spent like the day at the school, and they had a bunch of activities for us. And there was just so much going on this week and so many photos. I decided to include an insert, which I don't do this very often, partially because I don't usually have that many photos, and partially because I want to keep my entire year in 2 albums. So this entire album is January through June, and that is, that is what I want to do. I don't want to put so many inserts that it's not going to fit. So I am very judicious when I use those inserts. Wait, let me adjust this camera for you guys a little so it's not angled. I don't use them very often, but here I wanted to, and then it gave me the opportunity to use these tags that were from the kit and cut these out and tell some additional stories on the tags. And I really liked leaving these transparent here where you could see kind of through them. And while I could do that on like the front or back of a spread, then I have to work it into the next week. So having it in an insert here was really nice. Here I told the story of that Admitted Students Day and just a few other little stories, and of course my recap card. Moving into April, I'm using the Freckled Fawn kit, and you can see the other half here, and I have a flip up here. My daughter got her wisdom teeth out this week, so I told that as a longer story and included some photos under here that I don't want to share online. I do a lot of flip ups like this when I have stories specifically that I don't want to share online, or also just because if anyone's flipping through my album, I mean, they could look in it, but it's a little more like private that way. I do also include inserts of traditional layouts. Like I said, though, I don't tend to include a ton of those because I don't want the album to get too bulky, but I will do it when I have something specific that is related to this time. So here I'm using the Wander Story Kit, and I actually did 2 layouts with the Wander Story Kit from around this time frame. This photo I wanted to include, I love this photo of my cat. He's wearing kind of the swag that we picked up from the Admitted Students Day here. And I love this photo, but I purposely didn't include it in a pocket because I wanted to blow it up and make this insert. For the other side, this one was a little bit less like from this time frame, but because I wanted something to go back to back, I put this one in here. And this was just a story about like some things that I picked up from wandering some different shops. Here I'm using the Happy Story Kit. Again, loving using story kits in here. Some of the themes are easier than others. Happy is very much easy to use in Project Life because it is such a like general theme. So I had a lot of fun with that. I also pulled in some things from my stash to bring in some like seasonal stuff. So that's nice to be able to pull in those seasonal embellishments. Here I used a few seasonal chipboard from my chipboard organization, which I have another video explaining how my chipboard is organized. If you're interested in that, I will link that for you. Here I'm using the April Stories by the Month. Again, my 3 things card. My daughter took a field trip to New York City for the day. We only live a couple hours away, so I do get down there fairly frequently. I think I actually went down in this album in like the next month, but she went, it was the first time she'd gone without me, and she went for a day trip with her school. So she sent me a bunch of photos. I decided to just include one here because the rest will be in her album, which I do keep a separate album for her. And like I said, this is like my story, but I do include tidbits of like her life or other things going on that aren't necessarily like central to my story, just because if people send me photos or that kind of thing. Like I will include periodically updates like from my parents, especially if something big happened, but otherwise it's really focused on me. This was the week of Week in the Life. So I do document Week in the Life every year with Ellie Edwards. I want to say that is probably my favorite project of the year. I love Week in the Life so much because I love everyday life documenting. I decided I always keep Project Life in my, Week in the Life in my Project Life album also because I just don't want to skip a week. But this week was already documented in so much detail in my Week in the Life album, which I do have a full flip through of that album that I will link for you at the eye if you're interested in seeing that flip through. But for in here, I decided to go with kind of a rainbow theme and use some Week in the Life products from my stash. So these were like old stickers from a sticker book that was from Ellie Edwards. And then these were some cards from my stash. So what I did was these were from an older week in the life kit. And I used them to kind of do some documenting during the week to write out things that I was like feeling, appreciating, enjoying, noticing, watching, reading, prioritizing, eating, listening, and wondering each day during the week. And then I used those to as my journaling for this week. And then I also did observations of like big overall things that happened this week. For my photos, I was looking back through my photos and I realized I took at least one photo looking down at my feet every day, which is something I like to do a lot, especially in Week in the Life, because I can capture a lot of things that way. And you can see I was able to capture a lot of my life just by looking down at my feet, right? I got a meal here. I went to the movies, so I had my movie ticket. Wednesday's trash day, so taking out the trash. My tulips coming up in my yard. I stopped at the grocery store and picked up some croissants, which is like my favorite treat. Still, I love them so much. And then Saturday, I went and got a new iPhone. I think this was the week. So I went back. I had a new iPhone, and the iPhone they gave me was bad. So this, I went and replaced it. So I had gotten the new iPhone the week before. And then Sunday, relaxing at home with my cat. Okay, so moving into May, here I'm working with the kit from Freckled Fawn for May. And I really, really love this kit because I really love that it had the purple. If you've watched any of my scrapbooking videos before, you've probably heard me gripe about the fact that there's no purple in any scrapbook lines, and I love the color purple. So anytime they show up in scrapbooking, I'm very thrilled about that. And part of the reason is because I love to do rainbows, because I love rainbows, and I never have enough purple to do that. Here I'm using the Seek Story Kit, and this one was super fun. If you saw my page before though, I had switched these, the Seek Fun and Seek Simple. While I was doing my process video, I actually put them on the wrong ones, and I didn't even notice until after I had photographed them, so I did switch them. So this journaling was about seeking fun. This journaling was about seeking simple. And then for Seek Love, I just did it on a photo here. A lot of the journaling wasn't like perfectly aligned with it, or like this photo is not perfectly aligned, but I like the ability to kind of like work those in. And I loved them being vertical in the pockets. I think it came out really cute. I also really just loved a lot of the cards in this kit. I also love seeing like my garden in my house, kind of the changing of the seasons and how pretty it looks in spring here, as opposed to like, let's see, there was one of my house. Where was that? I think it was maybe here. Like, look at my house there and then here. Like, I just love seeing the change of the seasons. And when it gets to the end of the year, then you'll see the snow again and the Christmas lights. And I just love that. This week, I used the photo story play kit. So Allie had released some mini kits this year. I believe they were called Story Play, and there were like 4 of them. It was like the day in the life, photography, facts and feelings, and I can't remember what the 4th one was, but they were to do like a mini album and to do some mini projects. Instead of participating in the mini project, I decided to use them for my project life. I loved the products, but I didn't need to do an additional project right now. I just had too much going on. So I felt like this was a good way to use those projects, especially because they are very versatile. So I had cut the vellum piece to make my title card here. And I had a few photos my daughter had sent me with her boyfriend this week, so I was able to include those. I was on a Zoom call with some friends. There's a photo and a story under here that I wanted to keep private. And so again, I love the ability to make flip pockets for stuff like that. I went on a hike, which was just very photogenic. And then I took this photo in the evening one day in my yard, which I just love. I love the colors in that photo. And that just kind of worked out, by the way. So like this, when I lived this week, I wasn't even thinking about that this was going to be my theme, but I was able to kind of make photography my theme because I was able to talk about my daughter sending me photos and how much I love this photo and taking photos on a hike and not getting a great photo at the top of the mountain, stuff like that. So then this week I went down to the city. I went down to Brooklyn and for just like a couple days for work. And then let's see, what else did I have going on? I went out to lunch with my daughter. I got some ice cream. Here's a few things from the city. And my daughter had an award ceremony. So this was actually like a very busy week. And I'm working with the May stories by the month. So you can see my reflections here. Moving into June, here's the Freckled Fawn kit. And this was the week my daughter had her prom, her senior prom. We put up her graduation sign. We were getting very close to graduation. This is like getting really close to like recent now. So this feels like this just happened. I cleaned out my car and just like a few like everyday life things in with like the bigger moments. Here in June, I'm using the work story kit. And I'm just gonna put this up so you can kind of see both sides together. This was a really good kit, I think, for Project Life because it really allowed me to kind of focus on certain things. I did my daughter's and my work schedules, and I was so annoyed I messed this up here, and I wrote, I think it was like Saturday schedule on Friday or something like that. Or I was writing the wrong week. That's what I was doing. I was writing the week, like the next week's schedule on here for some reason. So I had to go back and fix that, but it still came out nice, and I liked the ability to kind of see what our schedules look like because they're so different now that she has moved out, that I don't have this like back and forth schedule with her where I work during the day and she works in the evenings. I mean, she still does, but like I'm not seeing her every day anyway because she doesn't live here, so it's a little bit different. I liked the ability, this prompt of on my desk because I'm always taking those photos. And then here I was able to kind of list out some things that I was like working on this week, which I really liked that. This week we had a block party in my neighborhood. So this is all from that. And then just like some other random photos and things that were going on this week. And let's see, did I actually write about that? I don't think I did actually get this story in here, but it was super smoky because of fires in Canada. So maybe I did document that elsewhere, but I do have these photos from it. And then here's the flyer for our block party. I didn't have another traditional layout to put on the back, so I just took some pattern paper from my stash and filled it in just so that it looks completed, and I'm happy with that. I just want to have the album be done so I can put it on my shelf, and I also love using a pattern paper that have been sitting in my stash. Moving on. So for this week of June, I'm using this one. I did like a stash busting week. So I started with these two cards that were from the work story kit that just didn't fit in that spread. Like I wanted to use them together in Project Life, but I didn't have enough from that kit left to do an entire spread because I used a lot of the kit in this spread, and I'd also planned out a bunch of other projects. And I do have that planning lesson in the story kit classroom. I am sharing those in that classroom every month over at Allie Edwards. So if you are curious how I'm using my story kits beyond what I do in Project Life, I am sharing all of that in the story kit classrooms at Allie Edwards, and I will link down below if you are new to that or if you're not a subscriber so you can get that information. But I wanted to use these in here, but I didn't have more from that kit to fill in my spread. So what I did was use them as a jumping off point for the colors and pulled a bunch of things in from my stash that worked to tell all of the stories of this week. So I used these cards to do, they say life work and hard work. What I decided to do was make this one about my daughter and this one about me and all of the things that we were each working on at this point in time. And so like she was working on getting a promotion and she's going to work. We were hosting a grad cap party for her the following week. So we worked on prepping for that. It was her last day of school. And so just like different things that she had going on, some of them more work focused than others. And then me just like working through some hard moments, being very productive, getting my oil changed, cleaning and organizing my closet, a lot of craft prep and a lot of college prep, all of that stuff. So I just kind of put all of that in there. My daughter went to a concert with her friends. I redid my closet and just a lot of like little things going on this week. Then this week was the week of my daughter's high school graduation. So that kind of took over the entire spread. And I like that in Project Life, that if something big happens, I don't need to document every day. I can just focus on the big thing that's happening, or I can document a lot of little stories. So what I decided to do for this week Well, first of all, I used the Explore Story Kit, which I thought was great for graduation, especially because there was this card that said Go Farther, which I wanted to use to document her graduation and journal about it. And I also loved this card here as a quote card to put near the photos. So here's the photos from her graduation. Here's a grad cap party we hosted earlier that week and the story of it. This is from the party. And then here I just have a random photo and some journaling of just like other stuff that went on during this week that wasn't related to graduation. And then this final photo here was about my cat helping me pack, partially because I had this pack a bag embellishment in the kit that I wanted to use, but that was going into this spread where I used the Go Quarterly Scrapbook Kit to document my daughter's graduation trip where we went to Montreal. It was the first time she'd actually been out of the United States in her life, so it was very exciting for her. She also is the drinking age in Canada, so she was able to order alcohol in restaurants, which was also very exciting for her. She's also never been anywhere where English isn't the primary language because she's never left the United States. So being somewhere where French was the primary language was very interesting and fun for her. And we had a lot of fun. We just went for 3 days. And so I just journaled a little bit about what we did every day, kind of like a bullet point list, because I do plan to do a mini album documenting this trip. And then I just included some of my favorite photos from our time there. Then moving into the final week of the year, of this album, of the first half of the year, I'm using the June Stories by the Month to kind of recap June. I did include the 3 things card, but this was actually only like 3 days because I wanted to end my album on June 30th, even though it wasn't the end of a week, so that I could split the year perfectly in half. And that's just my brain needing it to be super organized like that. So because there wasn't a ton of days here, I didn't have a ton of photos. I was also just coming back from a vacation. Here's the photo of us coming back into the United States. And then my cat saying hello when I finally got home to him. But then like getting groceries, back at work, like there's not really a ton going on. So I did include some additional journaling cards. And I pulled some things out of my stash, like these 2, to have some additional things. I added some ephemera in here. And that was how I ended up kind of filling in the spread. To end off the album, I did what I think is probably my favorite way that I've ever ended an album. And I created a photo collage of some of my favorite photos from this entire 6-month period. And I just cropped them all to 1x1 squares and made these little collages on Photoshop Elements, printed them out, and used this paper from the Go kit to add on here that says we take photos as a return ticket to moments otherwise gone, which I think is perfect to a moment otherwise gone, which I think is perfect for kind of an ending page. And then I put the dates on here just to add a little bit of something in the middle of this arrow. And I love how this one came out. For most of these spreads in here, almost everything except for the ones that are part of my classroom and this final one, I do have a process video here on YouTube. At the end of this video, I will include a link to a playlist that has all of those videos if you are interested, or you can go see and find a specific video for any spread that you are wanting more information on. I also have photos of all of these spreads on my Instagram. I will be sure to link everything down below. Thank you guys so much for being here. I am very happy to have this album done, and I am very thrilled that I get to share it with you guys. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.